I believe it was. And I realized that there are a lot of other things that I need to teach before we get to that point. So from the previous class, where like, when we did the practice exam of creating the practice labs of creating the users groups and things like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue that. And this class, I will teach bash scripting, um, which basically that is gonna be useful for when we do the system monitoring and things like that. So I'm gonna do bash scripting this class, which will be like a continuation of creating like the groups, permissions and things like that. For the next class, it's going to be networking, because again, it's like if you're monitoring a system, you do need to understand when it comes to file permissions, how to create bash scripts, and a little bit of networking so you can understand how the system is working. And then the class, I want to say before, let me double check. Give me a second. Yeah, so today's class was supposed to be like the system monitoring and maintenance. So I'm actually going to do shell scripting, then it's going to be networking basics, then system monitoring and maintenance, and then we're going to do the basic system administration, just because I think yeah, there's just some things that I need to cover before we kind of like, start understanding system administration. And today I will actually be with my camera off, just because my computer cannot handle like sharing my screen and having my camera on. But let me go ahead and start sharing the slides. Share screen. And let me know when you can see where it says the intro to Linux. Okay. Let me go ahead and what's the chat saying? Marta, yeah, go ahead and update, because that might take a while. So go ahead and update it. Stop video. Okay, there we go. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I was saying, today I'm actually going to cover bash scripting, just because again, this should build up on it will build up on like the previous class, and it'll help you for the coming classes. And so today's objectives, we're going to understand, hopefully what bash scripting is and its applications in automating tasks and managing systems. We're going to get familiar with basic syntax and structure of a bash script. Hopefully today we're going to create a bash script file. We're going to make it executable, which is something that we practiced in the last class, and we're going to execute the bash script in the terminal. But first, let's kind of cover like what is bash. In previous classes, I kind of mentioned that bash, it's a shell, like it's a command line interpreter for Unix-based operating systems. So the original one was called Bourne Shell, and it was developed by Stephen Bourne. So it is the default for many Linux distributions, and it used to be the default for Mac until they decided to change over to the Z shell. And again, like basically the shells, it just allows you to interact with your operating system. Any shell works the same. There are just some like commands that might be missing from different shells, but they all work the same. And so what is bash? So it allows users to execute the commands to interact with the systems. So commands can be simple, like, ls to list directory contents, or complex, which involves pipelines and command chaining, which I didn't cover that. I'll try to go over it a little bit today. So bash provides like job control features. It allows you to run commands in the background, bring them to the foreground, and you can manage multiple tasks simultaneously. So as I've mentioned before, Linux used to be a very much like, just a command line centric operating system, so everything had to be done in the command line, and there was really only one. So what we see now when we go to the terminal, let me sign in and then share my screen on this one. Give me a second. Okay, my Ubuntu decides not to work today. Okay, but yeah, so basically what the terminals that we have now, they're basically called terminal emulators. And that is how you are able to have more than one process running at the same time, and you're able to check multiple things at the same time, where maybe that was not really possible once, when Linux was solely command line interface. And also, what is bash scripting? So bash scripting is actually the act of creating text files containing a series of commands that are executed sequentially. So all the commands, let's say when we create a user group, or we create a group, a user, we create different things, rather than having to type like the command every single time, you can kind of create a bash script, especially if it's something that you do over and over again. You can create a bash script to automate that for you, to where you may just type in like, the command, and then you just type in like maybe some parameters and it'll run the command. So scripts, they automate, like I said, repetitive tasks. They can help you manage system configurations and handle batch processing. So bash scripting, it actually supports programming constructs, meaning that bash supports like control flows, like, with if statements, loops, functions, and it does make it a powerful scripting language for automation. Kara, let me see. My terminal is really a terminal emulator, and the only actual terminal is the shell. So let me see. So no, so like the shell, yes. Basically the shell is like, the command line that allows you to create with it. So with the terminal emulator, that is how you can have like more than one terminal open, each running a different thing. So yes, the actual terminal is a shell. And then let me see the next one. Okay, so when and why to use bash scripting. So when to use it is, again, when you want to automate simple tasks. Why? It is lightweight and is always available. And there are more advanced tools and programming languages that you can do scripting and automation, such as Ansible and Python. Like having a basic understanding of like what bash scripting is, what it does make a big difference when you want to use different tools, or install different libraries that come with Python, or use Ansible, which is again like an automating, like software to help you, like, again, with the repetitive tasks. It's just a little bit more advanced. And again, it's like, bash scripting is when you want to do like simple tasks that don't take a lot of things, because when you write a bash script, I don't know if any of you are familiar with programming languages. So Python, Python follows what is called object-oriented programming, which is basically you can share, I can look it up here. Let me see if you can still see. Object-oriented programming. So with object-oriented programming, you kind of create one central class, and from that class, you can create different functions to kind of, again, kind of make sure that you don't repeat the same code over and over again, and you just create like where is it? Right, so we can do this here. So you can see the object-oriented concept is you create this class that holds all the information of what you want your code to do, which you can encapsulate. Then you create what's called an object that is copying the class to allow you to then maybe give different functionality to the class and implementations. So bash scripting is not as sophisticated as Python for automating, and it does not have libraries the way that Python does when it comes to coding. So again, this is and the syntax for bash scripting is like a little bit more complex than Python. So Python is very easy. But the reason why, bash scripting, it is, again, very traditional. It is something that comes like with all Linux distributions, and it's something that will help you understand Ansible and Prometheus and just these different tools that people use for automation, just so you can understand a little bit of the concepts. So the contents of a bash script. So the concept of the contents of a bash script, I'm sorry. So a bash script's kind of just like, again, like a programming, excuse me, like a programming language. They have variables. They have 4 while loops. Users can, you can prompt the user to, a question or a phrase so they can have input. Then you can have, the script output and accept parameters. So parameters are just things. It's like when you create, I didn't put the word here, but when you create a function, you can have it so it will accept parameters. So whenever, let's say, for example, you want to greet somebody, you can put that parameter in when you call the function, and it will personalize the message. So I want to show you all a very simple bash script, which here in our terminal, I am setting this variable to my name, Marilia, and let me see if my Ubuntu is gonna work now so I can show you all this. Give it a second. My virtual machine is working. Sorry, excuse me. Let me know if you all can see my Ubuntu.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'm just asking questions in the chat, and I just I won't forget them, but I also don't want to like interrupt you every other slide or whatever. So I'm just like noting them there so that I don't forget. I hope that's okay.
No, it's fine. Yeah, just give me a second. Sorry, I just saw them.
No, it's fine. I just didn't want to forget them. That's all.
Okay. So sorry, when you ask like, slower and more robust, but also more non-flexible, what do you mean by that one?
I guess like, and I don't know if this was correct, but when I learned about it, I kind of learned that like non-compiled languages are kind of like proto, or they're like the first languages, right? And they're just like not as flexible, but they're sort of heavy duty. Is that accurate? Or I mean, is that what shell scripting languages are like?
So I think so what happens with like shell scripting and like I think those low level languages and compiled is that they allow you to kind of because let me see, with Java, Java is like a compiled language, but it's well, like a compiled language is basically is that it has to go through like an interpreter in order for the machine to so in order for the machine to be able to see like what it's telling it. So whenever you create, like, let's say a Java, because that's a compiler. So whenever you create a Java file, it actually goes through what's called the Java virtual machine, which it creates in order to interpret that file and change it to excuse me, into like bytecode in order so that way the computer can use it. And I think yeah, that's why bash is like interpreted, just because it doesn't really need all of that. With compilers, just like more steps to get to it, so that way it can work with the machine. But
Thank you.
let me see. Please download. Okay. Terminal. Okay. And something when I kind of didn't really go over in the past. So whenever you do updates on your machine, so there are two commands that you are going to run, which is going to be the apt get update. Once you get this one, then I mean, once you run this command, then you will do apt get upgrade. So it's I remember thinking that I was like, this is very redundant. I don't understand why they would just do it like this and not but I finally understand what it means. So whenever you do the update, every every program or process that you have installed, or like in all these softwares in your computer, they basically, when you do update, what it's doing is that it's going, you know, to the internet, to a repository, and getting and checking to see if there are any newer versions on your of these programs, you know, that are there. So what it does is that it downloads it from the system. So let's say, you know, if you go to Chrome, if there's an update, it's just gonna like download it and save it there. So when you do upgrade, what it means is that then it's going to basically, these older versions is going to upgrade it to the new version that the computer just downloaded. And that's what it means. Because I was yeah, just wondering why they do the same thing, kind of like almost the same word, but not really. So to write, like, we're going to write this very simple bash script. When you do when you write a bash script, which I'll go over in a little bit, and you declare a variable, there is no space. So if you are used to, let's say, writing in JavaScript, for example, you're going to do this word name, and then there's going to be all this space. With TypeScript, I mean, with bash script, I'm so sorry, there has to be no space, just because it will sometimes it'll interpret that space as something different and it might mess it up. So this is, again, a very simple bash script. We're going to do echo, and that is how we're going to get an output in the terminal. So there are two different commands. We can do echo, which is like the most used one, or you can do printf. But right now I'll cover echo. So we're going to, hopefully, let's see. So when you want to call this variable that you already set here in bash, you're going to put the $sign and then the variable name, and it should, see, I set it here, and it says hello Marilia. And then let's say that, for example, you want to I think you can update it, and let's see, Kara, and then I can do echo hello name, and now I set it to Kara. And then let's say that, for example, you want to actually just delete the variable from the terminal altogether. Ooh, sorry, give me a second. So we are going to, I think it's this one, onset F and name. And then
Is
if I do, sorry, go ahead.
is Bash the language that we've been using for the last couple weeks to practice the little
Yes. So
command?
bash,
Okay, so
yeah, so
everything that
those,
happens in this is Bash in this
yeah,
term.
so bash comes with those commands, which basically those are also scripts. Is just what happens is that somebody create, like, you know, like the Linux developers, they created these scripts and they gave those scripts aliases. So instead of you typing, let's say, like the complete path for a list, which, let me see. Sorry, give me a second. Did I not? Oh, I don't know how to spell. I'm sorry. So this is going to be a database, which basically is going to, whenever we use this this command locate, and let's say I want to see where the ls command, the list command is, it's going to show us the path so we can get there. And so what happens? Okay, so locate ls. So ls, again, as you can see, it's in actually a lot of the different folders and files. So all of these have the, oh, because it's creating all of this, but I'm trying to say
I think you can use the command where is.
which, yeah, right?
Is it which or where is? I don't remember. Yeah,
Which,
there you
okay,
go.
there you go. That's what I wanted to do. So locate will actually match all of that, you know, so oh, it's gonna do the ls. So we're gonna do which, and then let's go ahead and or you don't have to do it, but if you want. So we're gonna do bin, and we are going to see let's see. So here you see even this, the locate, it became a command. So it's going to be basically the user binary. So all of these, you write them and then they basically compile into binary. So the program, yeah, so it's all binary. So we cannot actually read it. But I'm trying to see where the command is. Let me see where I can find. Let me see. It's gonna, I'm not gonna find it. Okay, but so since this isn't the user binaries, this is all in binary. But yeah, so basically everything is written is kind of like a bash script, and they're just giving like aliases, which I'll show you this command. So that way you can give your script a name, and that way you're not constantly typing like the full file name or like the full path in order to execute that bash script. And there is, I will send a list of commands in Linux. Let me find it. So basically try whenever you like run a command, or if you ever want to give an alias to your scripts, just make sure that you don't give it the same name as like, you know, the commands that already exist in Linux, such as like, you know, the make directory, remove directory, and things like that, just because I believe the system might override, might do, this is the like might do the command, the default command rather than the script that you wrote. So just make sure that whenever you do give it an alias, it is a different one. Okay. Let me see. So this is the bash script that we are going to go over today, which I know it's a simple bash script, don't get scared. But I will explain line by line what all of this means. But is this not typed right? Sorry, the margins are messed up. But this is kind of like what a bash script looks like. And we are going to write this today. And again, I will explain it, what it's doing, why we're writing this bash script, and things like that. But first, I kind of want to talk about like, you know, so what are variables? Because we are going to set some variables here. We're going to use some variables. So variables, think of them as a storage box where you can save strings and numbers. And oops, I didn't save it here. But variables, basically, they allow you to recall that information without having to, let's say, type in, let's say that you want to try to locate, like you have a path for the, so let's say here that, let's say you want to copy a file, you know, from this location and then to this location. So rather than like, let's say, typing this every single time in your bash script, for example, again, because it's like, you know, just a set of commands that will run sequentially, meaning that it's read, the file is read from top to bottom. You would just create variables to hold this information, like, you know, this path, so you don't have to constantly type this out. And even if it changes, then they will be like, the variable will just update. So you can update it once and not have to update it constantly in your bash script. So a variable is just going to hold this information for you so you can recall it over and over again. So think of like ls, pud, think of these almost as variables. Where it's holding the information where, like the pud, you call this variable and it's going to print the current, like, working directory. So that way you don't actually have to type all of the commands that are in this one, variable in order to get to get this one output in your screen. And another thing that we are going to kind of cover, or like, what is a bash script, is script parameters. So in bash scripting and in programming in general, parameters, they're used to kind of like pass information to a script or a function. So whenever you write your function and you put the parameters, that is when it's called parameters. And then when you call the function and you give it the information that you need, that is when you call it arguments. But you can either, or, it doesn't matter. You can do the parameters, arguments. So the parameters, they allow the script to be dynamic and flexible. So that way, instead of, let's say, because the exercise that I want us to cover, or like, the bash script that we're going to write. So we're going to continue creating a user group. We're going to create a user group that is going to be, let's say, the IT department for an organization. So we're going to create a user group that is just going to be called IT department. We're going to add users to this group. And because it's the IT department, we will give them all super user or sudo privileges. So instead of doing it one by one, we are going to create this file, this bash script. And what we're going to do is that we're going to give it the username of the IT department, and it will add them to the file that holds the sudoers, that's what it's called, where all the super users or administrators are. So instead of us, kind of like, again, we're going to look at this line. So instead of us going into this file to check, is the username here, what this line is saying, please check that this username is there. If it's there, then we are going to, okay, so this one is saying if it's there, it's gonna say that it's already in the sudoers. And if it's not in the file here, we're giving people the privileged administration, we are going to put that username in the file, so that way they can have the administrator privileges. So that is kind of like what we're gonna go over today, hopefully. Okay, so yeah, so this is just kind of like script parameters, and this is just a simple bash script. So again, a variable in bash, when you declare it, you can either declare a variable in bash like this, like lowercase, or you can give it, you can do uppercase. But whenever you write your bash script, make sure that you're consistent. So if you do all your variables with lowercase, make sure they're all lowercase. And then if you do uppercase, then make sure they're all uppercase. So this is kind of like a bad example, but so here is how we're going to store the first parameter. So this is letting the bash, well, actually, let me back up. So you see this line here that says the £, this is called the shebang, /bin/bash. This lets bash, or the computer, know that this is a script, a bash script, and it's a comment. So it's like, it kind of ignores the comments. It doesn't do anything with it, but at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, this is what this is. And as I mentioned before, with Python, you can also do scripting. And you can basically put here, like, the £, shebang, bin, bash, and then like you can actually put Python here. So your computer knows that it's, it's a script for the shell, but it's written in Python, so it knows what to do with it. So this is a variable here that I have declared, which is number 1. And this is basically telling bash that this is going to be the first parameter. And then now we're going to do a second parameter in the num2 variable, and that way it knows that this is going to hold the second parameter. And here, basically, what we're going to do is it's going to be total, and this is going to add it up. So here, And let me actually do it in the command line. Give me a second. So we're going to use vim add numbers. So whenever you create a bash script, even like, so when you do programming, all the files have like, an extension. So if you're writing a Python file, you're going to do .py. If you're going to do JavaScript, it's going to be .js, and, so on and so forth. When you're writing a shell script, the file extension is going to be .sh. And this, again, is another way that the computer knows that this is a shell script. So, of course, it's empty because, so here we're going to make sure that we write, let me know, I think this is very small. How big is, make it bigger? Okay, so we're going to do in bash, and this is letting the computer know. We're going to do num1. Can do num2. Again, no space whenever you declare the variable, and you do equal. So this is a declaration. You're basically telling the computer like, okay, so this variable, this name is going to equal to this value here on the right. And again, no space, just because when it comes to bash scripting, the space is very weird. And then you can do total again. I'm just going to try to keep it consistent. And this command that we have here, so this is, echo. I'm going to do print f. So printf, this command, again, it will print to the terminal, but it's a little bit more flexible because it does allow you to kind of manipulate the string or the output a little bit better than echo. So I'm going to, what happened here? Again, when we call a variable, we have to do this little sign here. Let me just copy this. Maybe not. Okay, and to exit out of this, we're going to do escape. And to save it, we're going to do WQ, which means write this file, and Q means quit. Shebang, or like the exclamation mark, means ignore any errors that you see. So we just created this this bash script. So when we do ls, we see it here, and we see it is a text file. So we can do add, and then let's see, numbers sh, and it's gonna show us what is in this file. So now to execute this file, we are going to type it like this, but you see what it says here, bash permission denied. We can try to do sudo, but look, it says here, command not found. Can anybody guess why I cannot run this file? Let me know. You can unmute yourselves or like put it in the chat. It's fine. Why can I not execute this file? Anybody, don't be shy.
You need
We all
to
know each other.
set certain permissions on that file. Not permissions, but do you have to? What's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word I'm looking for. You know, when you
Yeah.
do ls-l, you see read, write, execute, right?
Yes.
You can't, maybe it doesn't have the right permissions set on it, on the file itself.
Yes. So that's correct. And the way that we actually do this, it is with the chmod
I remember.
command.
Yeah.
Yes. So what you means is basically owner. So this means like for the owner, we're going to let them execute. And then we're going to put the name of the file. So you see here how it looks. It looks very different. So these are directories and, right. So now we're going to list it. Oh, let me clear my terminal before I do that. Look here. We made it executable, which means it changed. So now it knows that this is not just a simple text file. It is a file that has a command that you can go ahead and run on your computer. And again, so the way to run it is we're going to add users. We're going to add numbers.sh. And you're going to give it, remember we had number 1 and number 2. So if I were to call it without any parameters, you see it says 0 because I didn't call it with any numbers. So let's say, we're going to do 5 and we're going to give it a space. So with bash scripting, whenever you're giving the arguments to call the function, you don't have to use a comma. You kind of just do a space and then call it like that. So as you see here, I called the file, which means this is what this dot means is like in this directory, there is this file. And what I'm doing is I'm going to call this file with the arguments 5 and 6. And here it added. So now my total is 11. And we can kind of add numbers sh here. And something that I kind of want, let me see, to cover, well, no, this will be a little bit later. Sorry about that.
Can you explain the %s and?
Yes. So let me go ahead and go back into the file. So for
%s?
print, yes, so this line here, sorry,
Yeah,
does not have like line numbers. So basically what it's telling the interpreter that %s is that there's going to be a string that you're going to print into the terminal as well as a decimal. And this means it's a new line. So it's like once you print this string, which is what we have created here, and this decimal, you're gonna then go in a new line and then do the echo to show it. So basically, if I hadn't done the new line, this would have printed right here, and we can try it. So let me, why is it not deleting now? Oh, because I didn't do insert. There we go. That will help a lot. So you see, so because I didn't do that character, which means print a new line, it printed right here. So this is kind of like a way to make sure that like your outputs are a little bit clean whenever you do, let me just add this back here. And whenever you do this character of new line, there shouldn't be a space in between like the previous letter or word and the new line. You just type it like that. So basically what this is saying, again, print to the terminal, print F. We're gonna print a string, we're gonna print a decimal or like a number, and then in a new, then once you print that, new line, and then print the rest. What? Oh, okay. And Linux again is very picky. So most, if not all of like the commands and things like that, they're all in lowercase. So as you can see, like when I typed W in capital, it was like, no, I don't recognize that. So there we go. Let me do the other one. Okay. So we're going to, so another way to interact, like I guess with the supplied information from the shell script is we're going to use the read function, which again, well, I'll cover function in a little bit, but we're going to do this one. We're going to run this script. Give me a second. So we're going to call this one, I guess we're going to do vim greet user. And we're going to do I for insert, and that is how it allows us to, let me make this bigger. No, I cannot. Something is, I don't know why VirtualBox for some reason is not making this, the virtual machine big. But again, when you create a bash script, we're going to do pound shebang. This is called a shebang. We're going to do bin bash, and this is how it's going to know.
Aurelia,
Yeah, sorry.
you can try if you're on a Windows, Control Shift and the plus keys
Okay,
to
let
get
me
your
see.
terminal bigger.
It's not working. Let me see if I can just make this bigger. I can, yeah, I don't know what's going on. My virtual machine. But is that bigger for you all? Or I think what I can do actually.
It's good. Yeah, I think it's better.
Okay, let me try to make it preferences. Colors, sorry. Gonna have to make it just a little bit bigger. Oh, the
Is it
font.
terminal size right there where it says 80?
80, I see it here. Oh, I see. Yes. Let me just give it 90, and then let me make this font. How is that? Is that too big or is that okay?
That's good.
Okay. I just want to make sure that everybody can see. So I'm gonna type in read. What this flag here, what it means is that it's going to prompt, basically you're telling us like, we're going to give the user a prompt, and you're going to actually then, type in the prompt, which is for, oops, say please enter your first name. What's going on here? Enter your first name, and then it's going to be first name. So this is how we declare a variable. Again, so in Bash, you can either do all uppercase, you can do all lowercase, or you can also do what's called snake case, which means that you put the underscore in between each word. And it's really just your preference, but make sure that whichever one you do, that you remain consistent with it. So then we're going to do, please enter your last name. And then again, last name. Again, we're going to use the print command here. Then we're going to say hello. And then let me go ahead and send this in the chat for everybody. So this is the bash script. I just sent it in the chat. Did I already do escape? Yes, I did. WQ. Then we're going to do ls. So as you can see here, here is greet user, and from the commands from before, we're going to change, basically it's a change the mode, or change the mode. Again, for the owner, meaning me, that I created this file, we're gonna allow this owner to execute this file. And we're going to then give the file name. Gonna do ls, then you see it changed the color. And what we're gonna do here again is going to be, we're gonna be in this directory. We're going to execute sh. So here it says, please enter your first name. I do Marilia. Please enter your last name, Enriquez. And there we go. Hello, Marilia Henriquez. And this is how, just in case you ever need any input from the user, this is how you would get that input, which is basically, which is with this function here. And again, the P, what it lets you do is like, it'll print a prompt to let the user know that they're supposed to actually do something and interact, which you can kind of, I guess, create a little game with this function if you wanted a little bit more practice, which is basically, let's say, for example, we can do command line game sh. And this could be also like a little practice for all of you to create something. So oops. This could be like, just a little example. You could just say, what is the alias for the list command? And you can just say list, and then again, what is, how do we see the current directory? And again, you can do current directory. And you can do, let's see. What are we doing? Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm just to. Oh, oops, forgot to do a question mark. And here it is. Oh, and I forgot to put a new line character at the end of this word. So let me fix that right now because it looks ugly. There we go. It has to be lowercase. So this is just a way of, just to get a little bit of practice of writing bash script. And also it could be a really good practice for you all to kind of like, recall the different commands that we kind of went over, and maybe also find out different commands that So for this one, it's because we're just printing, Marta, I'm answering your question. It's because we are just printing a string. So if there was a mix of like a string, numbers, float, integers, decimals, and things like that, then we would do that basically to let it know to format the output properly. So yeah, so this is just a string, and that is why we don't have to do the S and the D and things like that. So yeah, so this could be, you know, like a little game that you guys can play, you know, by yourselves, to kind of test your knowledge and things like that. And it's a very simple bash script, and you can add as many questions or, you know, as you want, and you can print them all. And the only thing that I really, yeah, is that you would have to, for every single thing, you could just say, let's see, the command for remove directory, something. You can just then variable here. So this is how you kind of just create your bash script, and you're able to execute it. So then, why did I do that? Should have just quit without saving. Let me make sure that I formatted it right and it looks better. And I don't know how to spell y'all, but anyway, so you see here it's a little bit better. So it does say the command list is this one, and then to see the current directory. So it does look a little bit better. So something that I also want to cover is functions. So the read that we just use is a function, and think of functions the same thing as a variable almost. So functions, they allow you to organize your bash script into logical sections instead of having like an organized structure. And again, so basically when you create a function, you are writing code that is a little bit repetitive. So rather than typing that code over and over again, what you're going to do is call that function and give it parameters, how we did previously, to kind of make it a little more flexible to then execute this function. So in that way, a function is almost the same thing as a variable, where you're just storing information that that is repetitive. And in the functions, right? So whenever you're creating bash scripts, and even in programming, you have to think about a lot of use cases and how to handle different things. So for example, you know, with conditions, we have if statements, which in the bash script we'll go over. Here we see if. So basically they're saying like, you know, if this condition is met, then do this. And if this could, you know, and then if you know, so if you know, you compare it, then you're gonna do so. If it's true, you're gonna do this. And then there's the else, meaning that if this is not true, then you're going to do something else. And in bash, you have to write the letters fi, I guess, for fin, like end. And that is how it's going to know that this if statement, if else statement, you should exit out of it. And another way to also, let's say that you need to iterate through a lot of the same things, is that you can write loops. And in bash, it allows you to do it in two different ways, which is a for loop, which meaning that, like, you know, there's a little bit of like whenever you have a list of things, so it's gonna iterate through all of it. And the while loop. So the while loop is that while a certain condition is true, you're gonna do a certain action, and then you write fee, you know, so then that way once the condition stops being true, once it becomes false, then you're done and you're going to exit out of this while loop. Okay, so now we are going to, if you have any questions, let me know if you want to take a little break for right now. I think we can take a little break, so then that way we can go over not just the bash script, but we're gonna go ahead and create the user groups, the user group for the IT department. We're gonna create 2 or 3 users, and then we're going to write the bash script, so that way we can add those users into the sudoers or like the administrator file. So that way we don't have to like run all of these commands. But we can take a little break right now. How long do y'all think the break should be? I want to say like maybe 10 minutes. Is that okay for everybody?
Sure.
Good.
Okay, yeah, so we can come back in 10 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and go over the second half of the class. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Okay, so let me know if y'all are back, and then that way we can go ahead and start creating the users and the groups. Okay. Excuse me. So does any who remembers how to add groups to the Linux command system? And Kara, I saw your question. Like, what is the difference between console and the shell in Replit? So the console could give you a graphical user interface, whereas like the shell, it's purely textual. So it's only just going to be plain text based, and the console, they may give you an option of seeing something visually rather than just having text.
Having like text in color and like in a rich format or whatever.
Yes, and sometimes they may even have like the graphical user interface, so it may not just be text, depending on the console and things like that. But that's the difference. And so we're gonna go ahead. Let me see. Okay, yes. So does anybody remember what this command does before I go ahead and hit enter? So this one, excuse me. Yes, it will switch the user, but it will make you the root, as you can see here. And usually another way to tell if you are the root user or not is that you see this $ here. That means I was not the root user. And this pound sign, it means that I am the root user. So basically every command that I run while I am the root user, I don't have to type in the password every time, and I don't have to type in sudo before I run the command. So it's just going to run it because I'm already in administrator mode. So we are going to create the IT department user group, which is going to give it, it's going to give it 5001 just to be a little bit safe. Make sure that we don't have, can I do, okay, so this means, usually again, when you don't see like an output, this means that it was done. And then we're going to add users to this group, which is going to be the IT department. Give me a second. Sorry. Okay, so sorry, we're gonna do user add. And again, we don't have to type in sudo because we are not, we're already in root. And for whenever you're doing, what is going on here? Sorry, I clicked something I shouldn't have. Can you all still see it well? Trying to make sure everything, my thing is. Okay, so we're gonna do user add. And for this one, let's go ahead and set the home directory because the last time whenever we did user add, for some reason it didn't create it for them. So we're gonna do home. What should the name be? Let me just put that is no, I'm already a user. Here we're gonna give them basically we're gonna set their shell for all of them, you know, it's gonna be the bash shell, and here you could also do like, you know, which how is it? It's a C shell like this, but you can just here we're gonna do it bash group. We're going to give it to the IT department. That's how I spelled it, right? And then we're going to give it the name Serenity. That usually means again it was created. So then we're going to give Serenity a password. And it could be IT department, or let's just give it something easy, just IT. It's okay. So there you go. So for every user that we're going to add, we're going to do user add, and we're going to give them their directory, which is going to be home and then the name. Then we're going to give them the bash shell as the default shell. We're going to add them to the group here. We're going to add them to the group IT department, and then this is going to be the user name that we're going to give them. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and give them the password with this command, which is PASSWD, and then their username. And here in the command line, you can give them a shorter password than 8 characters. If you were to do this like in the graphical user interface, I think it would like force you to give them a password that is more than 8 characters. So this user is created, and let me make this a little bit bigger for me. So we're gonna go here, and just to make sure, click switch user. So here is Serenity, and I just gave it the IT password. So right now, so this is just gonna be a setup. So right now, Serenity is just it's just a regular user. So she or he is not gonna be able to actually do anything. Kara kind of tried it in the last in one of the last classes where she tried to run like so you see here is a Serenity, and then this is the computer name, and as you can see here is the $sign, which means she is not root user. Now let me make sure that she has why does she not have a home directory? Oh no, what is going on with this thing? It happened the last time as well. Okay, so I'm gonna have to figure out why it's not actually creating a home directory for them, because I already said it here. So whenever you create a home directory, it's basically gonna give it what like my regular user has. Uh Let me just open a new one. So then one thing is that when you open a new terminal, this one is independent of this one. So as you can see here, I am again my regular user. I am not root, and it does say it up here in the tab names. But yeah, so you can see here I have my home directory where I have my desktop, documents, downloads, and things like that. So I had to figure out what is going on, which command, because it should work. The way to set a home directory for the users is doing D, which is the directory, and then you type in this one, but for some reason it's not. I'm missing a flag. There are a lot of flags. Yes, I'm missing a flag. I knew it. I knew it. This is something that, let's say, for example, you would automate with a bash script, right? When you have to create a user. So this one, basically what you're doing is setting the default directory for them. There was another flag that will do it with the previous one, M, which means actually make the directory for this user, but I think I can just do it with like user mod. Let me see. Okay, hold on. The option for user mod. I don't want to move the home. That's not what that means. Okay, so I can do user. And is it home? I'm sorry that I didn't do it. Okay. Now my computer froze. Give me a second. Let me close some tabs in my Visual Studio Code. Okay. Sorry, let me try to. Let me just restart it. Can I even click in it? No, I can't click on it, so let's just turn it off and then turn it back on. Give me 1 second. But in the meanwhile, y'all can try creating another user and make sure, let me type in the command. We're gonna be user add. Let's see if it's gonna work now. Wherever you see, I know I'm missing a command there. Oh, the shell. Sorry, let me type that again. Okay, I'm gonna do so whenever you see username, just give your users whichever username that you all want, and then we're gonna set the shell for them as bin bash, and then that should work, and then just the username. So that is the command that we're gonna use. Let me just see if my virtual machine is working now. And then once you create the user, then remember to give it a password, and we're just gonna give it the very simple password of, excuse me, of IT, just to make sure that it's easy for everybody. Let me see. Let me share my screen again. Let me just make sure that this one has the user directory. Oh, I didn't set the password. Okay, yay, so here is our home directory, so we can look at it. That's the flag that I was missing is M, which is actually make, which makes sense, right? We need to make the directory, how that other command. So here it is, and then, you can also check through the command line. And here it all is, desktop, documents, downloads, and all of this, all the same thing. So whenever you add the user, whenever you're creating the home directory, make sure to add that M flag before. So you're gonna do -M-D, and then you're gonna type in the directory, which should always be just home and then their username. Okay, there we go. I knew there was a flag missing. I'm gonna delete Serenity and create it again. Could modify. Okay, user. I was just creating the other user that I had created before. So we created these users, which are like, let's say in the IT department. And as of right now, they are just regular users, as if, like if you were to create the sales department and things like that, they don't actually have the privilege to do anything with the system. And that is why we're going to create a bash script where we are going to, what the bash script is doing, which, let me show the screen again. Did I close it? Yes, I closed it, but let me copy and paste it here for y'all. Give me a second. I'm gonna put this in the Zoom chat, and then again, we're gonna go over it a little bit line by line to see what it's doing. Does it? Okay. So it's in the Zoom chat. Let me go ahead and, why did I keep clicking the wrong thing? So no, so let's actually, oh, I see. No, let me just exit out. So And so what we're going to do here is every bash script, we're going to start it, oops, I'm sorry, like this, so that way it knows that it is going to be a bash script. So the first line here, let me type it in, which this is how I remember when you do an if statement in bash. In other languages you might do it with a parentheses. Here we're going to do it with brackets, and this is how it's going to check for this condition to make sure that it's true or not true. But so here, and this is kind of like how you do what's called the string interpolation. I think it's the word. So it's basically, it's gonna let you like type in a a value, and instead of just typing out like the word ID, is actually gonna interpret it. So it's gonna read it and be able to use it here. So then we're going to do ID U, which means user. It's gonna check the ID of the user. This means not equals to. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna check if the ID of the user, if it does not equal 0, which is actually the root user ID, it's 0. And then we're gonna do bracket. So whenever you kind of do an if statement, you have to type in the colon, the semicolon, I'm sorry. If you don't, then this is gonna mess it up. Basically, so we're gonna check if the user ID that is trying to run this script is not 0, which is not root, then we're going to actually have an output. Oh my God, we're gonna have an output. Must run as root. I'm gonna do exit, and then we're gonna end this if statement. Great. So when you want to declare a function in bash scripting, so when you do in different programming languages, let's say you want to do Python, you kind of do def, and which means like definition, I believe, or like function definition, and then you would do the add users. In JavaScript, you would do function and things like that. In bash script, we are just going to declare the function, and we're going to do parentheses, and we're going to do the curly braces. So this usually in different languages, what you would put in parentheses would be the parameters to, like, so let's say in JavaScript, Python, and things like that. So you would just type in, like, let's say username, password, just an example. And then when you call this function, then you would provide it with the username and the password. But the way that bash does it is a little bit different. But this is just kind of like, to also let it know that this is a function and not just like a regular variable. We're going to do the curly bracket. And in this curly bracket is where we're actually going to write the code or the script that is going to accept, that is going to basically add our users to the sudo, so that way it allows them to run as administrator. We're gonna do this variable. And again, when you set, declare a variable in bash, no space, just for the way that it does it. So what this is saying is that username is going to be the one is going to accept the first argument. So whenever you call, you're going to like execute this bash file, you're always going to add the username, kind of how we did before when we did the adding the number. You're going to just call it with the username of the user. It means, so this is just going to receive only one argument. So here we're going to do, so if grep, what this means I always forget like what the actual meaning of this one is, but it means it's something about regular expression, I think. Let me see. Okay, what does it stand for exactly? What does it stand for? Okay, so yes, it means global regular expression print. So what this is going to do, when you do grep, it's going to try to find as close of a match as what you're providing it. So when we did locate, as you could see, locate basically gave us back anything that had ls next to it. With grep, excuse me, it could be a little bit more precise because it will try to match your input, so that way, excuse me, so that way it could like give you a little bit accuracy here. Q means quiet. So whenever you do grep and you research something, it's gonna print it on the terminal. So by giving it this flag, it means that it's not gonna print the output. It's not gonna print like the result on the terminal. So we're gonna do it like in quiet mode. And it's gonna look up, excuse me, the username. So it's going to look up this username, remember, in this password file, which is once you create a user and you create a user, like, you know, their name, the information, the password, and things like that, they get saved into this file. So basically it's saying, so if you find it, we're gonna do this set of things here. So what is this one? So this next line, again, we're gonna again check in quiet mode. Where's this little caret? So this one, this time, we're gonna check. So this file is where all the names of the administrators would be, basically the people that have the privilege to be administrators. So this line here, it means, so we're gonna, you know, if you find this username in the password file, okay, then look for this same username in the administrator file. You know, so if, you know, so that means like, so if this one is already in the administrator file, we're gonna do echo username is already a sudoer. I need to learn how to spell echo. You can just put this one here. Close the chat. So then after this one, so it's gonna check basically. So if it is true, that is already in the sudoers file, then we're going to just already print this one. Else, meaning if it is not in the actual sudoer files, we are going to we're gonna add this user. So we're gonna do echo, do it in a new line. Username, so username that we use or that we call, it's going to, this is how you add a user. So basically this is saying this username is gonna add it to this file in the administrator. So this username meaning is gonna do like, it's gonna have the ability to do all, which is literally what just mean, like, you know, everything, every process, let it do it, like that this user do it all. I'm gonna do sudo p because we do have to use sudo for this one. And then sudoers. I'm gonna do user. Okay. So we're gonna finish. We're gonna try to exit out of this if statements. We're gonna do fee. So this one is, first we're gonna go into this if statement. We're gonna check for this username in this file. Then once we check that it's in this file, then we're gonna go into this one. And if it's already in the sudoers, then it's already in the sudoers. So this is still under this if statement. If it's not, then we are going to, oops, sorry, I messed up something because I realized. Let me see. Let me see. Did I not close it? Okay, yeah, sorry, that was missing. Okay. So where was I? Yeah. So here is basically it's already a sudoer. If it's not, then we're gonna add this username to this text file where all of the administrators are, and then we're just gonna echo like again, because Linux does not give you any feedback, but so we're making sure that here we give ourselves feedback, where the user added to the sudoers file. So now we're gonna exit this if statement right here. And the one thing about like the text files, or like the text editors like Vim and Nano, is that it doesn't have, kind of like when you use Visual Studio Code, there's a way that you can kind of format it so you can see the indentation. It kind of gives you like a nice line and things like that. But basically this fi or this fin or finish is for this if statement right here. So now basically, so what's going to happen is that let's say that this username does not exist, right? So this statement here is false. Then we're gonna do echo username does not exist. So that way, if we try to use, we try to add a user that doesn't exist, it will let us know. We're gonna exit out of this if statement here, which I'm trying to see if you can see it right here. So you see, so it does indent it for you, like Vim, it's good in that way, but visually, kind of like, it could be a little bit better. And then to end this function, you can see here it highlighted it because I have an open bracket here, and then I closed it. So now this is the body of the function. So this is the repetitive code that, let's say, if just an example, we had to add 20 users to the IT department. We could then declare this variable. So this variable, something that I should have kind of covered, is the scope. So this variable can kind of only be called like, here in this function. And or it can be like, a global variable where if you were to declare this variable outside of this function, it means that you can access it from anywhere in the script. Meanwhile, this variable here, it's going to have the local scope just to this function, and it's not really going to be accessible outside of this function. Or you can also actually like do a global variable, like still call it the same thing, but it will just be a little bit excuse me, two different. It will just like depending on how you call it, it will be different inside or outside of this one. Okay, so let me see. Let me just type this one out. Let me just finish typing this out. And then I'll do a little bit of explanation. this is how I said earlier, so this is a global and a local scope. So you can declare the variable. So here, it's only accessible here, but then at the same time, because this is only local to the function, we can go ahead and have a global variable, you know, have the same name. But it is best if you give your variables like different names, so that way you don't get confused when it comes to the order of it. So basically what this is saying here is, again, is that we're gonna set this variable, which is going to accept one argument. And then what we're going to do is, what did I call this function? Add users to I don't know how to spell doors. And then here, so what this is saying here is that the username is going to be one argument. And when we're calling this function here, is that we need to make sure that it uses the username argument. And then let me make sure I save this. X. What?
Hey, Marilia, I believe you are missing a closing quote. I think after the username of the script.
Oh, I was? Okay, let me go back. Sorry, it's because oh, thank you. That really would have messed up my whole thing. There we go. Okay, so I did change the mode here. So if it all worked correctly, if I did it right, I didn't do it right, you guys. What are the usernames that I use? Oh, Serenity. Serenity. Okay. Syntax error near, so unexpected token. So we have to fix this. Line 3. So which one? This is 1, 2, 3. So it's gonna be this one. It needs it. What happened here? Hold on, sorry, this here. Something else happened. Give me a second. I'm trying to figure out this syntax here. Oh. When you edit. So this one did need it. Okay. But then does that mean that, sorry, I'm used to writing if statements in like JavaScript where it's a little bit different than this one. Let's see. 1, 2. Ooh. Yeah, so then it does need it. Oh. But then, let's see. It's getting a little bit. No, that's not what I wanted. It syntax error near unexpected token. Let me see what it is. There's a this error? Give me a second, y'all. What's going on with this one?
I wonder if it's expecting the variable, where the $ is
The
on the same line that you're on.
mm-hmm.
Right before the $ and after the U.
Oh, if it's expecting this one,
No, maybe the quote. I'm not sure.
let me see, because it did yeah, how to. Okay, so when the syntax is messing you up, you can definitely Google, you know, how to write an if statement in a bash script, because in a bash script, because the syntax. Let me see. Okay, so yeah, so it is a little bit like this. Could it be? Let me just and it should be double bracket. Oh, what's wrong with this one? Let me just double check. No. Ah, there we go. I had double brackets. I'm sorry, y'all. It should have been only one, apparently. Because let's try it again. So yeah, if you don't know the syntax, it's totally okay, you know, to just Google. Like, it's impossible to just know how every language writes an if statement or a for loop or things like that. So as you can see, when I try to run it, it says script must run as root. So that was like the very first if statement, the one that I had like kind of messed up in the beginning, is that is checking. So I am not running it. So we can just do sudo here. I'm gonna do add sudoers sh. We're gonna add serenity. So we could definitely have more than one argument, but just for, you know, just like to keep it a little bit simple, I just gave it one parameter, which means that it will only take just one user. So we're gonna do sudo. Again, it's gonna be like in this directory, run this file, and this is the argument that we gave it. And okay, so there we go. So it shows you here that this was printed and actually added to the sudoers file, and then it says user serenity added to sudoers. And if that worked, let's go to serenity. Go to serenity. Did I delete serenity? Oh, did I need a password? Well, let's just do Pluto. Okay, so let's go back. Let's make sure Pluto. Take care. I'll see you next class. Okay, so we are going to, yes, my battery is dying, and then we're just gonna just double check that this person, because I know it's 8 o'clock, so let's just double check that this person can actually run as root. So let's say, for example, let's do sudo apt get, let's just update, you know, the directories that we have installed here. Why this incident will be reported. Okay, so I have to figure out what's wrong with my bash script. And in the Slack channel, once I figure out what is wrong with my bash script. Oh, I think I figure it out. I see what I did. Okay, let me try to fix it. I know it's 8 o'clock, I'm sorry, but let me just see if I can try to fix it. Okay, so it's going to be here in this line. It's going to be here in this line. Let me try to. So let me try this way. Give me a second. Ah, I see. Double quotes got me, y'all. So let me try this again. Oh, here's what I forgot. So this is one of the commands, or how to say, a symbol that actually works. So basically what we're doing is that we're running this command. This is a pipe. What it is saying is that this command, the result of it, you are then going to use it or pipe it or feed it into this next command. This is what I was missing. It's going to be, there you go. There you go.
Lindsay, what you
And
doing?
then we should, I'm sorry, go ahead. So there you go. And if it looks better. Yeah, so basically what this is saying is that go ahead and feed this command, this one here, into this other command. So let's try this again. Okay, so it says that Pluto was added to the sudoers file. Let's go ahead and go to the Pluto user. Let's pretend again like this is, a new IT person. They're signing into their system and things like that. So we're gonna go into their user, Pluto, and do IT. So let's do sudo, let's just let's say update. There we go. So they were added to the sudoers file, and they are able to basically be an administrator and run any commands that they need, if they were to work in the IT department. So yay, I know, sorry, I went a little bit over, but this is kind of, let's say if you ever run into any issues, definitely just you can Google the syntax, because it is very difficult to kind of remember the syntax for every let me plug in my computer, for every programming language that you use. So it's totally okay, so it's there are certain details that you may forget. How I forgot the pipe, that pipe symbol, so I should put it here. Basically that pipe, it means if I want to do yeah. Well, I'll go over this one before the next class, or I'll send it, but this is just basically feed this command, feed it into this other command. So it's a way to kind of chain your commands. But this one depends on this one, So this one could be independent. You can just run this command and it should be okay. But this one, it's dependent upon this one. So if you have the pipe, you definitely need to have a command before this one that then can go into this one. And I'll go ahead and make sure to send that in the Slack But I know you have the recording. I will go ahead and also send you the bash script that we wrote, so that way you can all look at it line by line. And if you have any questions, go ahead and ask it in the Slack channel. And if you all feel like we may need like maybe just a little extra class just to cover some things, that's fine as well. Just let me know. But thank you so much, and you guys have a good rest of your night.